California's Continuum of Care Reform, bringing hope to families in need. These videos are parents speaking of their personal experience as consumers of services offered through child welfare and juvenile probation. Their experiences are meant to educate social workers, deputy probation officers, service providers, and other parents on the impact teaming can have on a family. California has embarked on a statewide system reform to better serve the needs of families. The reform calls for every child or youth removed from the care of their parent by child welfare or juvenile probation to receive integrated care. The continuum of care reform requires that every family is offered a team approach to resolve safety issues and build a single plan to strengthen their family. Families are met where they are, from their perspective. At the center of the reform is the concept that a team of professionals and natural supports can come together to create a plan based on the strength of each family. Drawing from the success of wraparound, child and family teams will meet regularly as a whole to hear what families need and design services. Creativity is key in matching needs and resources. Families are seen holistically and without the past focus of services, and only to resolve problems as determined by public agencies and the courts. Outside of the meeting, the team provides support needed to bring the plan alive. This video contains the voices of three amazing people who know the benefit teaming can have when services are provided. There's much appreciation for their honesty and willingness to share the power of hope and potential for families.
So a little bit about who I am and kind of what brought me to services is I fell in love at 13, had my first child at 16, ended up having 5 children with this person, and we were together 13 years. When we split up, through that process, we went through our ups and downs, and coming from a environment growing up of domestic violence and not a whole lot of, I would say, guidance or really kind of skills that I had learned to be a parent. Being a parent at 16, it was very brand new to me. I knew some things, but not a whole lot. So then moving forward, having multiple children, I had 5 children at 23. When me and their father split up, I'd experimented with drugs off and on throughout my life, but at that point, I started doing methamphetamines on a regular basis. Pretty much on a daily basis, and then I got pregnant with my daughter from another relationship, not a healthy relationship, and during this time was homeless. My children were living with my mom or in motels with me. We moved around a lot, not a lot of consistency, no structure. So then CPS got involved and took my boys while I was still pregnant, and then once my daughter was born, had taken my daughter into custody. I ended up in the hospital with congestive heart failure, and that's when I had my moment of clarity and said, okay, I need to do something different. I missed my kids. I wanted my kids back, but I was homeless, had no job, had nothing at that point, and put myself into a rehab out of county to try to get away from the environment that I was in. Also, my family was on drugs too, so I didn't have a support system. Went into drug rehab. By this time, me and my social worker didn't have such a great relationship, but due to my inconsistencies, as well as then once I was doing what I needed to do, I felt like he kind of had wrote me off at that point, didn't accept my calls, or the conversations were very short, didn't kind of hear me out. So at that point, I started to build my support system through my counselor, my drug counselor, and was able to get back into county, into a homeless shelter, and start doing my plan that I needed to. That person, my counselor, kind of helped me, was somewhat of an advocate, in the beginning, to be that person between me and my social worker. And then once I was in the homeless shelter, and was doing what I needed to do, eventually services started to come to me that my children had already been getting prior to them being in custody the whole time. And then I was introduced to a wraparound team. I think when they first came into my life, I was skeptical. So in the very beginning, I was thinking you're an extension of CPS, because at that point in time, for me, I felt like CPS had control over my children. At any point, they're going to decide whether I get them back or not. And at this point, he doesn't have a very good impression of me, and we didn't have a good relationship. So when they first came, I was very skeptical. I think what helped me was they just kept coming, and they were asking me what I needed. That was the first time I had been asked that, like, what do you need, or what do you want? Is this even something, we want to try to support you in the direction that you're going? And once I realized that they were there to help, and they had even helped me get some visits that had been stopped, and I knew that the visits needed to start in order for me to get closer to reunification, and that wasn't happening, so they were able to help me do that. Then I started to build trust. I think the biggest thing that helped me with that was their transparency. So them being honest with me, like, if you don't do this, it can affect you here. So we really want to, make sure that we're working together, we're on the same page, let us know when things aren't working. So I felt like the most important thing was having a voice. The most important thing that I think to put in place for children and families that would be helpful is services for the whole family early on. And I know, because I have experience, on both sides of the system, so to speak, there's a case plan in place, but there's not those conversations earlier on to bring family to the table to ask them what they need. So I think involving them at detention, it would be great prior to detention, to get some services, but at detention and when kids are being removed, to really bring everybody together. And I think that's a great thing that CCR is doing. Instead of having to fail up like my family did, we had to fail up to get wraparound services. I didn't get any services, didn't know about that until my son was going to be placed into a group home. When my youngest son started having behaviors, then that's when they increased the services. So I think the services earlier on and having that teaming approach earlier on is very beneficial. I feel like the most important supports that a parent or myself had during this process was somebody, again, who was very honest with me, who met me where I was at and asked me, what did I need? Or is this working for you? Because when you're going through it, and I'll speak for myself, but I've worked with a lot of families too, you're going through it and you feel like the professionals around you are the experts and that they have all the answers. And really, we do as caregivers, and sometimes we just need help bringing that out. So I think people that are going to ask you some questions and do some exploring around what the strengths are that you already have, but also being really honest when maybe you're not doing the best thing. Who was on my wraparound team? I had a facilitator who would facilitate our family meetings. I had multiple, which the wraparound program that I was in, they called them FSCs. It was family support counselors. They were kind of the youth mentor or the person that worked with my children. So we actually had 4 of those at one point on our team because I have 6 children total. We also had a parent partner who worked primarily with me, with really helping me gain self-esteem and confidence and learn how to advocate for myself. We had multiple clinicians on our team at one point. I had TBS services, so they used to come in 3 days a week when I got my first son back. We also had, my son was involved with juvenile probation, so they weren't really active in our meetings, but they were part of our team. And then, of course, my social worker at that point. And I think that's about it. I think our child and family team made us stronger as a family. For me as the parent, it really helped me be able to identify the areas of strength that I did have and what I needed to build on, because I really felt incompetent and didn't have a lot of self-esteem going into services, prior to services. But those meetings kept me encouraged, like, okay, yeah, you have all these areas that you're working on, but this is what you're doing well. And really helped me to the outlook that I have on life now, because things are always going to happen, is try not to necessarily stay focused like everything is great and rainbows and all of that, but really try to see the positives in every situation and how you can grow from it. It can be a really negative situation, but you can still grow from it. And also, I think the biggest thing is helping me use my voice, knowing that I can advocate for myself, and even if the people in the room didn't agree with me, all of them, that they still heard me. So the advocating piece was huge.
What helped me most while I was in care was the fact that it gave me a voice, and it kind of gave me options. Like they asked me who I wanted to be there and how I wanted to go about it, um, which I liked, because up until that point nothing was my choice. So I think that helped the most. While we were in care, I think some of the supports that we needed um, were like mental health things. I feel like there was a lot of things there that needed support, and yeah, I think that's a big part. When I returned home, I think some of the things we needed was, I think we needed more services. Like, I think it needed to continue longer. I think that we didn't have enough. Um, I felt like it could have been a lot more helpful if it continued on longer, um, just to make sure we were, staying on track. And because once we got back, things, we had just gotten back together, so I feel like there was a lot of things that still needed to be worked out, us all being back in one place at the same time, and I feel like it would have helped if we had more support. While I was in care, what was confusing to me is, I guess, just not knowing what was happening. Like, there was a lot of things that we didn't really know. Um, not knowing how long we were gonna be there, or if we were going back, or yeah, just not knowing, I guess. Um, so what I'm up to now is, um, well, I'm working. Um, um, yeah, I have a job. I'm still working on, you know, helping myself get better, because there's still a lot of stuff that I'm dealing with from back in the past. Um, and yeah, just working on that.
A little bit of my history. Um, let's see, mom passed away when I was 6 years old from a heroin overdose. Dad was in and out of his addiction. Stayed with a lot of family members. Went through a lot of trauma during that time. As a teenager, I was in foster care, also on probation, just you name it. Caught up with the wrong people, just on and on. So during my adulthood, I had my first child at 19. Because of the instability in my life, I didn't really know how to have a healthy relationship in a sense. And so this caused me to attract toxic relationships. And so that's kind of how my life was toxic. Started doing drugs, started hanging around gangbangers, started, selling drugs, just doing deviant things. Brought my kids into care. After me and my husband broke up, I came into another toxic relationship and had some domestic violence. And for some reason, I went to one of his family members' house, and at that family member's house, my son was sexually assaulted. But because of my prior contacts with CPS, this was kind of like the final straw. So I had prior contacts with CPS for domestic violence. One of my oldest sons' grandmothers called because she was kind of scared of the environment that the kids was in, because me and we did have a lot of domestic violence and a lot of things going on. Moving on to other relationships, my ex also was calling CPS a lot. So they would come out, and of course, things were unfounded, or, so nothing ever came of it. But this particular occurrence, they remanded my children. Well, before my team, I was kind of running in circles and hitting brick walls constantly with the social workers and people that had influence on the outcomes that would happen in my future and my kids. So before my team, I just really was having a hard time. Even though I was doing some of the things that I needed to do, I didn't really have the support that I really needed in place to make things happen the way I wanted to, because I felt ashamed, I felt judged, I felt all those things. So when I did come in contact with my team, I felt really supported. Before I even came in contact with a child and family team, I didn't know what it was. And because of the past social workers and different things like that, I had this brick wall up, and I just wanted to do whatever it was that I needed to do to get them away, And so during the process of CFT with this agency, they explained to me what it was. They explained to me who the partners was going to be in there, what their role was. Explained to me in detail what was going to happen. So me, myself, I didn't have a lot of questions on. I knew the expectations, and I knew what was going to happen. I didn't have. It was explained to me very clear, and I think that's an important key to a successful CFT, and just getting the parents and the child to really become involved in it. I feel the most important support that a parent needs is a family partner. Like I said, I was running into brick walls constantly during this particular season of my life, and I didn't feel like anybody really understood where I came from. Like I said, I at that point I had the wall up, so I didn't even want anybody to not just give me my kids and let me go on about my life. But as a family, my family partner actually met me where I was at, and just kind of reminded me of some things about myself that I have forgot. I'm a person. I'm not just a mom. I'm an aunt. I'm a friend. I'm a sister. I'm all these different things, and I'm a good person. And so just having somebody just to it's not negative, just to speak that positive and give you that positive energy, and just speak life back into you when you just fell on your face and you just have nothing left and you feel like the world is against you. It really helps to have someone partner up with you and say, I got you, The folks that were all on my child and family team were a family partner, a youth partner. So the family partner helps me, kind of gives me my voice and kind of helps me get the skills that I need to kind of communicate with my kid and meet me at my level. A youth partner for my son who had services, which will help him get the services that he needs and the skills that he needs to, transition it back in the home, or even if he's not coming back home, to just live in whatever kind of environment that he's in. We had a therapist who kind of knew Chartier on a different level and kind of just sat on the team. My family. So I have 5 children. And facilitator. So the facilitator's responsibility is to make the plan and kind of talk about the family's vision and really, really hear everybody's voice at the table. My child and family team meetings were wherever it was convenient for us. If it was convenient for me to have it at the office, we would have it at the office. If I was just pressed for time and we could have it at the park, we could have it at my house. So it's really specific to the family's needs, which is really important. The child and family teaming process helped me and my family become stronger, more cohesive as a unit. We eat at certain times. They have a schedule. They have chores. I think it created the structure that we were missing. I feel like your kids are different when they come home, when they've been gone for an amount of time, and I also feel that the parents are different. I believe that it's also brought my kids stronger together because they deal with them individually. So I had 2 teenagers that are always at each other's throat. And so they would take them, and that would be their time to start, kind of mending what's broken or start problem solving and trying to create a healthy relationship. So that's how it helped me. Teaming was different from the supports that I've had in the past because I felt alone. I felt like I just really didn't know where to go or how to solve my problems, or I didn't have anybody there for me. One positive thing about child and family teaming is that there's not one person that makes a decision. It's a team approach. And when you feel like the social worker has your life in their hands and they can yank it from under you at any time, like I said, I have 5 kids, so 2 in adoptions, 2, here and there, and 1 in guardianship. It was really stressful for me to know that if I didn't get along with the social worker, that I might not get my kids back. So everybody has a role on the team, and we make decisions as a team, and that's what really worked for me. Where am I at now? I work for a nonprofit agency, and I help individuals and families navigate the system. I think it's my experiences that really help. What I've been through is really powerful, and it helps people get through what they need to get through.